America has an affordability crisis. Banks are feeling the pressure, and the Federal Reserve finally tells the truth. This is current events for December 29th, 2025. This is the foundation. I am Sot L, seeker of truth L, speaker of truth L. And, we are back at it. Appreciate you checking out the, current events. As always, it is an absolute pleasure. Let's jump in. Make sure you check out welcome to thefoundation.com. Sign up for the email list. At the very least, y'all. Also, we're still doing the dance. You can email us half off this one-time startup fee for every tier of trustee training. Email us admin at welcometothefoundation.com or support at welcometothefoundation.com. It's on you. But it's not a bad deal. We also have other things available. Various, availabilities. You can make a donation, free PDFs, educational materials, so on and so forth. But you didn't come here for that, did you? CNN, the Fed admits it can't easily fix an economic problem it helped create. Now, is that true? It's up for debate, but the Federal Reserve's policy decisions in recent years have contributed to a worsening of economic inequality in America. And some of the central bank's policymakers say it's not a problem they can easily fix. Millions of Americans, especially the wealthiest, took advantage of the ultra-low interest rates during the panorama when the Fed loosened monetary policy to shore up the economy. Borrowing costs are now well above panorama era levels. But about 20% of homeowners still have a rate below 3%. And this is according to Fannie Mae. Not only do those households have lower mortgage payments, but they've also been accumulating wealth simply by owning a home. Whew. Yeah, man. Is it really an accumulation of, quote, wealth if the true measure or metric being used to measure the wealth or the value of one's home is a depreciating currency known as the Federal Reserve notes? It just appears a certain way. I don't know, man. I'm crazy. Don't listen to me, man. Y'all know the deal. I could be a goofy psychological evaluation hospital, whatever those guys are, member, that escaped and made a YouTube channel. So, I can't give legal advice, tax advice, political advice. But this is interesting. Meanwhile, the U.S. stock market is closing in on yet another year of solid gains, boosted by continued investment into artificial intelligence, marking a stunning 3-year bull market. Low-income households who are less likely to invest in stocks and are more likely to be renters have missed out on those so-called wealth effects in the past 5 years. The growth of their wages also trailed those of the wealthiest throughout 2025, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. And that's really too bad, because a large part of that wealth transfer that just happened was happening in silver and gold. And anyone who, man, if you didn't grab any silver or gold, it's tight. It's tight out here. Moving forward, let me check this out. JP Morgan, de-dollarization. Is the U.S. dollar losing its dominance? This is from July 1st, 2025. But I think this is significant. I'm not going to keep you. We don't have to get into it. I would suggest that you check this out. I think it's wow. It's some cool beans. Nevertheless, why is that there? Guess it doesn't matter. Key takeaways. While the U.S. share in global exports and output has declined. So global exports, global output has declined. The dollar's transactional dominance is still evident in areas including foreign exchange volumes and trade invoicing. How much does that have to do with the SWIFT payment system, as well as the overall, I would say, inertia effect of, the United States Federal Reserve note being the world reserve currency since Bretton Woods? I don't know. On the other hand, de-dollarization is unfolding in central bank foreign exchange reserves, where the share of United States denominated currency has slid to a 2-decade low. In fixed income, the share of foreign ownership in the United States Treasury market has fallen over the last 15 years. So this is foreign ownership of U.S. Treasuries, pointing to reduced reliance on the dollar. Also, de-dollarization is most visible in commodity markets, where a large and growing proportion of energy is being priced in non-dollar denominated contracts, commodity sectors. And, we're done with it's going to be a commodity super cycle, some people were saying. Some people would say, me personally, I would say fiat currency worldwide is probably in its death throes. And anything with value, whether it's corn, soy, wheat, gold, silver, cotton, expertise, so on and so forth, we're moving to a different, system. I would say moving away from a system, a money system of account, more into a money system of exchange. Check this out. This is crazy. Rad Power Bike's biggest unpaid bill is $8.3 million to the U.S. Customs as tariffs squeeze the industry. This is probably one, more than one, of course, but this is one of many. GeekWire chronicles the Pacific Northwest startup scene. So, in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy petition filed this week by Rad Power Bikes, the Seattle-based electric bike maker lists creditors holding the 20 largest unsecured claims against the company. At the top of the list, not a major supplier or partner, but U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which is owed more than $8.3 million by Rad for tariffs, according to the filing. The claim is one of several listed as disputed by the company. The situation underscores the financial strain facing Rad and the broader e-bike industry after rapid growth during the panorama gave way to slowing demand, rising costs, and lingering trade pressures. A Rad spokesperson said that the company is not able to comment on specific line items in its filing, but in a November letter to employees warning that the company could shut down as early as next month. Rad cited significant financial challenges, including in the form of tariffs and the macroeconomic landscape. Tariffs have drawn increasing scrutiny from the e-bike industry. A recent report told the Washington Post examined how import duties under both the Biden and Trump administrations sent expenses spiraling for Rad and other bike companies that rely on Asian manufacturing. So this is a tariffs thing. I'm sure this is not the only company that's dealing with this. There's got to be more companies dealing with this. And, I'm not going to go out and actually look for them. But, I find it interesting that, you have a United States-based company that, ultimately is a startup, but is filing for bankruptcy. And one of its largest creditor is the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That's crazy. Let's move forward, though. People who drink bottled water on a daily basis ingest 90,000 more microplastic particles each year. Drinking water in plastic bottles contains countless particles too small to see. New research finds that people who drink water from them on a daily basis ingest more microplastic than those who don't. And that's wild. I'm gonna leave it there. Let's move forward. $1 billion data centers are taking over the world. This is something I'm paying attention to this. You know, the more data centers that are needed, the more RAM, the more hard drive, graphic processing units, you know, I can't even, maybe screens, who knows, but we're going to see the increase of prices for certain computer components, as well as, you know, there's something to be said about the water issue, the fresh water issue. But tech executives, let me jump in, like Altman, NVIDIA CEO Jensen, Microsoft CEO Satya, Oracle founder Larry, are fully bought in to the idea that the future of America and possibly global economy are these new warehouses stocked with IT infrastructure. But data centers, of course, are not actually new. In the earliest days of computing, there were giant power-sucking mainframes in climate-controlled rooms with coax cables, moving information from mainframe to the terminal. Then the consumer internet boom of the late 90s spawned a new era of infrastructure. Massive buildings began popping up, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line, now the tech industry is in the fever dreams days of generative AI, which requires new levels of computing resources. Big data is tired. Big data centers are here and wired for AI. Faster, more efficient chips are needed to power AI. Data centers and chip makers like NVIDIA and AMD have been jumping up and down on the proverbial couch, proclaiming their love for AI. The industry has entered an unprecedented era of capital investments in AI infrastructure, tilting the U.S. into positive GDP territory. These are massive, swirling deals that might as well be cocktail party handshakes, greased with gigawatts of exuberance. I think you should take a look at this article because, you know, it's the circular nature of these investments. This is, you know, that have the general public and bearish analysts wondering if we're headed for an AI bubble burst. And I think it's something to definitely contemplate. When you look at all these different companies and where who's investing in who and what's investing in what, it's pretty, you know, for lack of a better term, incestuous. But that's just my opinion. NBC News, America's affordability crisis, is putting Aldi in the spotlight. And why would you say Aldi? I don't know. The couple, well, they're talking about the newlywed couple, but apparently now buys groceries exclusively at the no-frills supermarket chain Aldi, where they say prices are cheaper than at other stores. We're just buying what we need right now. Dwyer and Martinez are not alone. For millions of Americans, the cost of living has risen sharply in recent years, fueled by a mix of persistent inflation, high interest rates, soaring energy costs, and consumer price increases due to tariffs. More than half of respondents in the recent NBC News poll said they have changed the groceries they buy in order to stay within their budgets. In the same survey, the cost of housing and the cost of food ranked as the top two economic problems respondents said their families were facing. This affordability crisis continues despite recent signs pointing to a resilient economy. S&P 500, the Dow Jones stock indices, blah, 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 blah. But if you look back at the crash, the Great Depression, and what the stock market was doing during the Depression, you know, you would understand that all of this stuff doesn't matter. The spoils of booming stock market are not being distributed evenly. Economists say consumers are separating into two distinct tiers, what they're calling a K-shaped economy. The K-shaped economy means that some Americans, usually the wealthiest Americans, are doing just fine. They're in the top of the K. Their incomes are rising. Their spending is rising. But many of the lower end Ks are finding that their paychecks can't keep up with rising food costs, housing, utilities, and childcare. They feel like they're falling behind, or if on a good day, maybe treading water. To keep their expenses in check, most have cut back on eating out. Well, these two people, quote, maybe once every 3 months now we'll go out. Used to be at least a date night here and there, but that's something we're now sacrificing because everything is just too expensive, end quote. And I mean, you can continue to read this if you want to look this up. I will not link this in the description. Nope, not doing it. But, affordability crisis. They're putting it, they're saying it. America's affordability crisis is putting Aldi in the spotlight. But this is what is important. They're admitting it. It's being admitted. The Federal Reserve is admitting it. Precious metals drop amid profit taking. Silver, platinum retreat from record highs. I think it's good for people to take profits. It happens. I don't think this is going to end this rally or the so-called rally. The only place where I'm looking to buy the dip is in gold and silver. All this other stuff, I'm looking at charts and I got to see trends and whatnot. But this is something to pay attention to. U.S. pending home sales surged to highest in nearly 3 years. And some people say, hey, this is good. This shows great, market activity. Or it's a sign of desperation because people are trying to get out. People are broke. Who knows? Contracts to purchase previously on U.S. homes unexpectedly shot to the highest in nearly 3 years. As improving affordability conditions drew in buyers, the National Association of Realtors said today. Pending home sales rose 3.3%, and they're saying, it's the the interest rates are dropping, so federal funds rate is dropping, the interest rates are dropping, home buyer momentum is building. Improving housing affordability driven by lower mortgage rates and wage growth rising faster than home prices. Right. I don't know. I don't believe that necessarily to be true. There's an affordability crisis happening. More inventory choices compared to last year are also attracting more buyers to the market. I don't know if I believe that. Banks tap Fed liquidity tool amid year-end pressures. This is important. If everything's cool, why are the banks going to the Fed? A key Federal Reserve overnight liquidity facility saw increased use today. Earlier, the U.S. Central Bank lent a total of $25.95 billion to eligible financial firms via its standing repo operations, the third highest usage of the lending tool since the central bank opened it in 2021. So we're talking about 4 years, y'all. To provide fast loans collateralized with treasury or mortgage bonds. The funds are lent overnight at 3.75%. Money markets often experience elevated volatility around the ends of quarters. Let's try to explain this away. I think this is big. It could not be big. This could be absolutely nothing. But I think that, the 4-year precedent is a big deal. And, if money markets often experience elevated volatility around the ends of quarters, why is this the highest one in 4 years? Isn't there 16 quarters in 4 years? I don't know. I don't watch much basketball. What do I know? Tax changes loom large for U.S. economy in the 2026. Basically, I want to get to this, though, right here. The law makes permanent the lower individual and business income tax rates from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts that were due to expire at the end of the year. They're permanent now. It also extends the standard deduction in that law and extends and expands the alternative minimum tax exemption and raises the estate tax exemption from $14 million to $15 million. Exempt taxes on up to $25,000 in tipped income until 2029. Exempts taxes on up to $25,000 in tipped income until 2029. All my service workers, bartenders, servers, drivers, so on and so forth. Talk to your tax advisor. I could be a Looney Tune. This tax break phases out for people who earn more than $150,000 and does not apply to all tips. For example, automatic service charges applied to large groups at restaurants are excluded, as are tips received for the, the older people's activity. Exempts taxes on up to $12,500 in overtime pay until 2029. Like the tipped income break, this phases out for people who earn more than $150,000. Creates a new deduction of up to $6,000 for people age 65 and older until 2029. I wonder what's happening in 2030, y'all. Must be some sort of agenda. Interesting. Creates a tax break for up to $10,000 in the interest payments on auto loans until 2029. This also applies to personal vehicles assembled in the United States. Good luck with that. Actually, there's several. And I like how they said assembled because, there's some Toyotas assembled here. There's some Hondas assembled here. I'm sure there's some, maybe a couple Dodges. You gotta watch out. Some of those Buicks straight from Germany. You don't believe me? You can look it up. And expands the deduction for state and local taxes, SALT, from $10,000 to $40,000 until 2029. This tends to benefit affluent homeowners in high tax states like New York and New Jersey. You got business tax breaks. You guys should look into this. If you have a business, look into this. This is tax changes loom large for U.S. economy in 2026. This is from Reuters.com. See, check it out. Reuters. See, they want me to pay. Nope. Why would I? All right, we got Reuters. Peace hopes dented as Russia says Ukraine tried to attack the Putin residence. Maybe you've heard about this, maybe you haven't. I don't really talk too many politics here unless it deals directly with some sort of commodity or, I don't know. This is something to pay attention to. Also, we have, there's certain people from certain countries that are in Florida right now. I'm paying attention. I think you should pay attention. There's Venezuela is no joke. We just going about our business, la 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 la. But just pay attention. That's all I'm saying. CNN, U.S. Postal Service plan to raise cash could cost the agency its biggest customer. You know who that customer is? You got it. Amazon, probably, right? That's my guess. Hold on. President Trump and yeah, there's people from different countries, in Florida. And, of course, Amazon. For years, the huge Amazon contract has been one of the few bright spots in the U.S. Postal Service's finances. But now, the United States Postal Service plans to offer those last mile services to additional customers to stem billions in ongoing losses. A move that risks losing its biggest customer. The USPS faces a tight squeeze with fewer people using the mail. It's lost more and more money, $9 billion in the 12 months ending in September alone. My goodness gracious. Quote, we certainly have a precarious cash position. Within probably 12 to 24 months, we are out of cash. End quote, USPS commissioner. I swear this just happened. Didn't they just deal with this like 2 years ago, a few years ago? And it was supposed to be, the Amazon contract reportedly brings in about $6 billion a year. Money it can't afford to lose, but the post office now plans to accept bids from other shippers for access to the service's distribution centers, even though Amazon says that might prompt it to pull back from the using of USPS so much? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Sound like a jealous non-boyfriend or something, right? Jealous non-girlfriend. Like, we ain't even dating. We'll see. Because what other choice does Amazon really have, you know? And then the bottom line with regards to their margins, Amazon's margins, the bottom line will definitely suffer if they can't deliver in the window that they've trained their customers to be accustomed to. What do I know? I could be out of here. China, CNN announces war games around Taiwan after hitting out at major U.S. arms deal. And there wasn't there like, I feel like, you know, Russia, you know, the Rus, you know, we're doing a dance, an exercise around the Ukraine, and then, you know, something popped off. This is not how that popped off. I could be wrong. But this, you know, Taiwan, TSMC, semiconductor. Look, China's military announced today it was mobilizing Army, Navy, air, and rocket units around Taiwan for major military drills aimed at sending a serious warning against any push for Taiwanese independence and external forces interfering with the island. Who do you think their external forces are implied to be? The exercise is dubbed Justice Mission 2025. Justice Mission. Would test combat readiness and blockade and control of key ports and critical areas. From Monday, China's Eastern Theater Command said live fire activities would take place in 5 maritime and airspace zones encircling the island tomorrow, according to information released by the command. I mean, that's... Yo, I gotta create a crew and name the crew's name is called the Command, because that just sounds kind of, man. You gotta ask the command. I'm just here today. That's woo. Taiwan's government condemned the drills, accusing China of quote military intimidation end quote, while its defense ministry said it was fully on guard and would take concrete action to defend the values of democracy and freedom. Beijing has in recent years ramped up its military intimidation of the island, long seen as a potential flashpoint in a fractious region, including by simulating blockades. Analysts say that based on the military announcements, the latest drills may be more explicitly aimed at practicing how to deny foreign military access to the area. The stock market of the United States would be in trouble. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I hope y'all see this. I hope y'all see what I'm seeing. Picking up what I'm putting down. Starbucks doesn't want to be on every street in New York and Los Angeles anymore. Why? They broke. I like how they phrase these things, right? Starbucks spent years trying to become an inescapable storefront in the streets of New York, Los Angeles, and other big cities. Now that's coming to an end, and its expansion once seemed limitless. It was even a joke. In 1998, an Onion headline read, "New Starbucks opens in restroom of existing Starbucks." A few years later, comedian Louis Black riffed that he'd gone to the end of the universe in Houston, where he saw one Starbucks directly across the street from the other. But Starbucks is now struggling, and a strategy of saturating urban areas to draw coffee drinkers on their way to work in the morning has backfired amid competition, the rise of remote work, and rising costs. So bottom line, they're closing stores. Starbucks gonna be closing stores. They're gonna make it seem like, it's what they want versus what they don't want, but they're closing stores. And this right here, let this be a hypotheses of future happenings from your Uncle Sot. From AI to drones, Redmond police chief builds a high-tech department in Microsoft's backyard. You know what Redmond is, right? In the city that's home to Microsoft, Redmond police chief Daryl Lowe isn't just watching technological innovation from the sidelines. He's integrating it into his department's daily operations. New era policing that capitalizes on advancements ranging from drones as first responders to artificial intelligence. When he became chief 6 years ago, his vision was to transform the department into a premier agency. Technology has been a cornerstone of the mission. We got drones flying. Look, while AI is newer addition to Lowe's tech toolbox, the department has a history of technical adoption. Adhesive GPS trackers fired at cars to catch fleeing suspects, and handheld narcotics analyzers that scan through transparent packaging and identify more than 5. But drones, specifically drones as first responders, are Lowe's pride and joy. He equates their impact on modern policing to the era when handheld radios replaced police call boxes. Did the call boxes replace the police whistles? I don't know. With a current staff of approximately 85 officers, Lowe employs 2 full-time drone pilots operating from a flight control center equipped with autonomous drones from Seattle-based Brink and Skidio. Integrated directly into the department's dispatch system, the drones can launch and arrive on scene in under 2 minutes. And then here comes the story that, so you get used to them and you don't say no. Lowe recalls a recent call regarding an individual experiencing a mental health crisis on a street corner. The person was screaming at the sky and waving his arms. Typical police response is send officer on the ground and make contact. We've seen those calls escalate and go wrong. Instead, a drone arrived in 30 seconds from 250 feet. A pilot observed the individual, determined no crime was occurring and no one was in danger, and watched as the person eventually walked away. We canceled the ground unit response. There was no need for police contact. Did you need a drone to do that? Could the police pull up like on the corner and observe for a little bit like the drone did and not make contact and determine that no police contact is necessary? Do you need a drone to do that? That's what I would ask Chief Chief Lowe, Chief Daryl Lowe. That's what I want to know. I'm sure that's what you want to know, because that's what we want to know. I'm Klein. I appreciate y'all checking out Current Events. That's it. Make sure you check out welcometothefoundation.com. We appreciate you. I hope you learned something, but be careful. Grab some silver if you can. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep tonight, and every night is very important. And I will catch y'all, tomorrow? We'll do Current Events again tomorrow, y'all. Peace.